Well, I'm Genevieve Ferraro, Lauren, and I'm so excited to have you here tonight.
Yeah,
And
me
this
too.
is the first time that I've had someone in my home to actually see the place. So this is the Jewel Box Home, and this is something I came up with because my husband did not want to move to a bigger house. Now, this is actually a website I designed and came up with as sort of a hobby because I was frustrated actually during the day. I worked for
And tell us what that URL is, just so that we know offhand.
Sure, it's www.thejewelboxhome.com.
Perfect. And also, just before we go into any more, can you also explain, like you said, what does the Jewel Box Home mean? What is that, like a more or less umbrella or euphemism for?
Okay, that's a really good question. First of all, when I think of the Jewel Box Home, I think of size. I did the website because I was frustrated, my husband wouldn't move, and I had to have some way of getting that out. And so I've defined it as a home that's 2,000 square feet or less. Now, certainly it can also be a home that's larger. In general, it means a beautifully decorated home filled with life. The other key component is how people feel in the house, the philosophy of the Jewel Box Home, which is very simple. Make people and not things the center of the house. And that's where the life comes from.
I
So,
love that, because one of the things that we were talking about before we even got to this interview was, we all live on the North Shore here, and this is a community where people kind of think to themselves, got to have the big house because the big house is a symbol that maybe I've arrived or that I'm successful, or all these other kinds of bells and whistles that may not be necessarily spoken, but they're understood. And so this is, as I understand it, and as you've shared with me, an opportunity to celebrate the smaller, more precious aspects of a smaller home without feeling badly about what you may not have.
yeah, I would actually, that's absolutely it, Lauren, if you will. People should not feel handicapped by having a small home. They can feel like this is a great thing. I think we are sort of raised to believe that you go to your starter house, and then after that you move on up, and that's sort of the progression. And if you don't move past the starter home,
Right, you got the big L on your forehead,
yes,
right?
like
oh,
something's
loser!
wrong.
Like, I can't believe you
Right,
you haven't
right.
you haven't made it there yet.
right, something's wrong with you.
And this is a giant knot, right? Like, dispelling the myth that you don't have to feel apologetic or less than, that you don't have it. In fact, just the opposite.
Exactly. And initially, I did feel really bad. My husband didn't want to move for various reasons. He didn't like the change. And actually, he just walked in the door. So perhaps we can talk to him later.
Yeah, it's all your fault, right?
Well, I've come to think of him as the hero in the story because I really am delighted. I really am happy we are still here. It's so much less work. It's really made our family close in terms of learning to share in the intimacy of a smaller home. So the thing is, there's nothing wrong with moving into a larger house, but there's also wonderful things and some things that are better in a smaller home than would be even in a larger home.